let's go on to John's specific pitch, and then we'll focus our Q&A around that pitch and specific investment KPIs and so on around his company. I think that'll narrow down our panel discussion as well. So John, we'll give the floor to you for about 10 or 15 minutes. If you could, while you're talking about your company, also address how you pivoted, how over the last 2 years or earlier than that, in your specific company, how you've changed, whether it was if you were developing a game first and you went to a platform to something new. That'd be great to hear that story, as well as specifics about the company itself. If there's a pitch deck you want to share, please go ahead. You can share your screen as well. And we'll go for about 15 or 20 minutes with that.
Yeah, I can chat. I mean, if you want to see a pitch deck, let me know. But I'll first start it off with the genesis behind this game. It's a prediction marketplace. So it's not a traditional game with swords and cars and things like that, as Manish was saying. But at the end of the day, people, users don't care. It's a prediction marketplace, and there's demand and supply on both. There's demand on both sides, right? So we really made it into a game. So we saw this naturally occurring phenomenon that happens every day, all day, with every human being. We're wired. Our DNA is wired to make predictions and have opinions. We're doing it all the time. It's fun for us. We can't stop. It's not work, right? So this is not a pattern. This is not like a trend or anything like that. It's just something that's been happening forever. So then I thought to myself, wow, all this talk and people aren't getting rewarded for their knowledge. So our whole mission is knowledge should be rewarded. So, in the beginning, we launched this company without heavy technology. We first launched it with that experience in mind, and we were just creating games, like a few of us, and putting it out there. And we're like, wow, we cannot scale this way. You can't scale throwing 1,000 humans at creating all these games, because they have to be relevant to people's economic sensitivities, demographics, geos, what's happening in the world. So that's our pivot was basically a technology pivot, where we really bolted on a lot of heavy machine learning technology to create this engine. So we're at the core of our game. It's a prediction game where people get rewarded and paid for being right. People are predicting the outcome of their favorite brands, celebrities, TV shows, songs, sports, whatever's happening. And they get to play for fun and for free. They get to win cool prizes, and they get to win cash prizes as well. But the only way to do a prediction marketplace correctly is you need a tremendous amount of data. So how do you get all that data? You need to scale. How do you scale? You need to appeal to the masses. How do you appeal to the masses? You have to have a lot of content. Like I mentioned, you have to make it fair, fun, and simple. So we made it into a game. So that was our basically our pivot was a lot more technology. We launched this technology in 2019, and ever since then it's been a really interesting journey. We've scaled up to over now at 4.3 million monthly active users. We're generating revenue and we're profitable. And we're fortunate enough to have some of the most amazing investors in the world on board, from Sergey Brin, the founder of Google, to Bruno Mars, the pop star celebrity, to Scooter Braun, the manager that manages Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande and Katy Perry and all those people, as well as Rizwan Virk. You might know him. He's one of the fathers in the gaming space. To Roblox as well, which are going public pretty soon. So really happy there. And the game itself is a very simple thing. It's a binary decision. It's X versus Y, yes versus no, something versus something. And you come into the game And it's the revenue model is in-game purchases, pretty standard and typical, just like Pokemon. You're going to go buy a bundle or a pack of coins. You're going to use those coins on a really cool sword or something, whatever that game is. On this game, you're using those coins on a prediction. So let's say, Manish, you're really into music. So you see a game and it's Cardi B song versus, Drake's song. Which one do you think is going to be number one on the Billboard charts at the end of the day today? So you'll go in and put $5 worth of coins in on Cardi B. Then the machine goes out, this matching machine goes out and finds your match, just like Tinder. But in this scenario, your match is your opponent. So what happens there is Vijay also picked Cardi B. Well, it passes over Vijay, right? Tariq picks Cardi B, passes over Tariq. Then I sit there and I raise my hand for Drake. We match up, right? Because we're opponents. So now it's one-on-one on each side. There's a 50-50 chance, somebody's going to win, right? Which is great. Because we're a very purpose-driven company. We think knowledge should be rewarded. We want people to win and we want to put money in their pockets the right way. So then let's say, Manish, you win because you picked correctly. You get your $5 worth of coins back plus my $5 worth of coins minus our versus game transaction fee. So that's a transaction fee is our revenue. And that's the user experience. Pretty much you can just play and cash out whenever you want. So people treat us like their ATM machine, which is a fantastic position to be in. And up until a few weeks ago, our patent pending machine learning technology has been creating all these games automatically and publishing them. And what is happening there on the technology is there's a few steps to create these games. One is this engine has to go out and figure out what's trending in the universe, what's happening. So it looks on every API database you can imagine, looks at sites like CNBC and TMZ and everything in between, right? Now, just because something on Fox News or CNN is published doesn't mean it's real. So the next step is validation. So we have to go verify and cross-reference other sites, cross-reference social media. Like, okay, this thing is real. Then we have to go figure out if this thing is trending. How popular is it? Like, who cares, right? So then we go look at the rate of change of the data set that we're looking at. So that could be IMDb, stock, Netflix top 10, YouTube views, social media stats, website download, app downloads, whatever it is. Like, okay, well, this thing is actually trending. So just because it's real and trending doesn't mean it's going to be a good game for you. Or maybe it's going to be a good game for you, Manish, right? But not you, Tariq, right? So we have to figure out, okay, well, have we done a game like this? We have to check off a few boxes. Have we done a game like this before? Have in this industry with these characters at what price point, what geos, what demos were we hitting? Was it popular? Was it profitable? So if it checks off all those boxes, it creates this game automatically, the characters and the question. But the problem we ran into was because it was an unsupervised machine learning model in the beginning, you give it a goal and you bootstrap it with some data to start, right, through the dark. But it had this baby brain. So it would pick a Beyonce or Michael Jordan, right? And they're in placement A on the spectrum. They are gods. They'll win every game. So, and then what happened was, they would pick, the machine would pick up some up and coming basketball player like Dion Waiters or some musician in placement W. Well, what would happen is human nature, everyone would pick the placement A, the Beyonce or Michael Jordan. So it was this 90-10 situation happening where people couldn't even match up, which means you couldn't even play, right? Because there's a one-on-one, there's no odds, right? There's no hard math for people. This is really simple. You can't even come into the game and think you're a boss and throw down $1,000 or, oh, you know what, I have more money, I'm gonna throw down $5,000, right? It's all microtransactions, right? It's very sensitive. And what happened was, we also discovered this Goldilocks Syndrome, which I'm sure Manish and Tariq also discovered in the gaming world, which games can't be too easy or too hard. Human nature demands that they have to be just right. Just hard enough, but not too hard and rewarding, right? So we eventually fixed that through this live ammo, which are basically people really saying what's working, what's not. And these, you can't do it with a lab group or, some test group of 100 people. You have to do it with real people. This is the hardest part and a big tech defensible moat for us. You have to go there to tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people and say, okay, well, this game is good. This game sucks. I want to pay $1 here. I wouldn't pay you a penny, right? And that real unbiased learnings feeds the data model, feeds the machine learning model. You can't do it any other way. And then we went from a 90-10 disparity to an under 2% non-matching rate. So most people can play now and they play all these games, which is great. So you'll find a match. So that was the big, movement for us. It was the technology, because the technology created the content, and the content is queen and king, right? It makes it relevant to me and not relevant to you, but we have something for you as well. And so because of that, we're actually betting on the fact that your interests and hobbies change over time. So we'll be with you wherever you go. We'll have content and games for you, right? And one way to ensure that is this creator economy that we launched a few weeks ago. Now, the creator economy is everything. It drives massive dollars in industries, right? Social media, YouTube, as everyone knows. And what we wanted to do, it's just kind of like a Roblox situation, but a little different. So we wanted to let anybody create their own game and host it and make a cut as well and enjoy some social mirror, rewards too. We did a beta with this with celebrities like Bruno Mars, DiCaprio, Tracy McGrady, Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq, Fat Joe, DJ Khaled, Snoop, and we are partnering up with Maxim right now, ESPN, Cumulus Radio, Intercom Radio, and they've been creating all these games recently since about February, March, and they've been going great. And then the users started asking us, hey, the players, hey, can we create a game? Let's do this game, do this versus that. And so we said, all right, let's unlock it for anybody, turning our marketplace into a platform. So now we have both. So with true marketplace mechanics, we are profitable in every little game because it's matched. People have to match or they can't play. So it allows us to scale once we figured out the CAC and LTV. And then now we turn this over to anybody and everybody. And it's been crazy. We actually launched in the Android store. It's been 6 or 7 days, and we have over 30,000 downloads without even really starting to push it. We'll be featured soon in there. And then iOS is coming and being built and coming in for end of November. So we're really excited about that. We'll be everywhere on mobile. And our percent of users that were playing for paid games and spending money was around 7% monthly, which is pretty good, pretty high in the gaming world. But it jumped to 42% for the user generated and hosted games, which is amazing. So that means, because we're buddies, we're friends, you're going to trust me, right? Because I'm sending you this game now. Hey, I got this cool game. I created it. And by the way, I know it's going to be instantly hyper relevant to me and you because we've been talking about this, right? We've been talking about pancakes and waffles. What's the best breakfast food? We've been talking about Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield in the trilogy match. I know you, right? So it becomes instantly relevant to whatever I'm talking about to core groups of people. So it's been really fun. So I'll pause there and see if anybody has any questions.
So let me start out. I know we didn't look at your deck, but I think the way you explained it, it's pretty clear what your product or your service does. So how are you, what would it take for someone else to do this concept of binary, this versus that? If that's so universal, why can't Manish go and spend a few $1 million and build it himself?
Yeah, it's a great question. You have to spend a lot more than that. But anybody can do anything with smart people and a lot of money.
Mhm.
That's a fact, right? So DraftKings tried doing this. They tried doing TV shows like The Bachelor and I forget what another one or Tiger King. Another some TV shows when the quarantine hit.
Mhm.
And it was a flop because it's really hard for big, companies to pivot. It's real talk. Especially when you have a group of users that are into hardcore sports, let's say, or one thing, and you show them a TV show, it's not relevant, right? But, anything is possible. So the big deal is the only way, like I mentioned in the beginning, the only way to do this correctly, you can go start this company with one person coming up with a game and putting it out there. If you build it the right way and you watch out for all the regulatory and legal pitfalls. So number one, it's very time consuming and expensive to go and figure that out and check off all those boxes before you start the company. Most people I have seen, pretty much everybody that I've seen this in kind of my space, they'll look at a DraftKings or a casino game or World Series of Poker or whatever and say, I'm going to do that with my little twist and I'm off to the races. And what happens is you're going to run afoul of the law within day one. There's a lot there you have to really deeply understand. So on the legal side, it's a really high hurdle. And then on the technology side, again, you have to do this at scale and you have to be relevant to a lot of people. So there's a lot of tech there that has to think on its own to create all this relevant content.
Right, thanks. Manish and Tariq, you go ahead and I'll jump in. Manish can't hear you.
I think you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
John, it'll be good for everybody to really get a sense of the regulatory and statutory legal kind of a risk because for a simple non-gaming guy, it looks like uh, I am betting on a 50-50 odd. And is it a game of betting, which is what is being run, and what is the legal framework around that, both on App Store as well as Off Store? I think that would be first simple question for any investor because um, what you are described is a betting on any real life event.
Yeah, great question. I'm glad you brought it up. So on the regulatory side, we are classified as a game of skill. It's skill-based, real money gaming. So it's not a game of chance. A game of chance, as we all know, is, you roll the dice or even in the fantasy world, there's still some element of chance because the quarterback, I don't know, could sprain his ankle, right? So there's some chance there. So we make sure that our games are games of skill, which means basically it's a learned behavior over time. The more you do it, the better you would get. So it's like if one of my lawyers threw out an example where if you drop a golf ball in front of you and Tiger Woods, there's a chance you might hit a better ball. But if you drop 5 in front of you and 5 in front of Tiger Woods, there's no way in hell you'll win. But if you practice over and over again and put in the time, then you'll get better, right? So that's the important general aspect there. This is why we've been able to launch on the Android App Store, the Play Store. They don't touch gambling apps at all. This is why we're able to partner up with companies like Skrill for our payment provider. They're scrutinized heavily by regulatory, companies because it's they're on the line. This is why we have partnerships with Fortune 500 public companies that are SEC regulated. This is why Sergey Brin's an investor. He's not going to do anything, off color. So, this has been vetted by very expensive people, I would say. Yeah.
So when I met the guys behind Games 24/7, the Rummy game, one of the thought processes was, hey, we're losing a lot of money on party poker. Okay, they love playing poker, and they were, putting 50, 100, whatever. They said, why don't we go to the other side of the table? That was the motivation. So instead of, playing games, winning, losing, they said, let's invent the game and, be the guys on the other side of the table. So John, what I'm seeing, if I've understood your model correctly, is that you're kind of empowering any individual to move to the other side of the table.
Yes.
Is that part of your essential thought process?
Yes, you're exactly right. And you nailed it eloquently. That's right. So we turned into a platform so other people can become by de facto the house, if you will, in this kind of, in your example of the card world. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing.
Right. So then you keep evolving that model. So if I, as Joe Blogs in the street, become the house, you're giving me a decent amount of creativity on the questions that I pose. Like, I could invent a memory game for 6 of my family members. Hey, who burst a tire on that road trip, for example, right? I could invent something like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could, my mother's losing her memory. I mean, she's passed away, but I remember in the last few years, she was losing her memory. And I said, okay, we're going to get photographs from the 40s and 50s and see which aunt remembers immediately who are the people in the picture, right? Could I also do something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. You should see some of these games that celebrities and corporate partners put out there. It's wild. It's kind of the wild, wild west. So, and we just make sure it's in our framework because that's underlying tech, and then they can go and be very creative.
And if I want to have a reward model, like I'll just say, the family group chips in $10 and they're in it for the year, right? And then I distribute to whoever gets the answer first. You've done all the legal and reg checking to allow me to do that in whichever formula I want.
That's the whole point. Yeah, exactly. It's all done for you. So people, that's the thing. We're not creating a new human behavior. We're just enhancing what people have been already been doing, right? So I think I always look at
no, stop there. You're not, because the thing that you're introducing is the reward mechanism, which is more than just an applause and a smile.
Right. Well, people can also like if you go and do a dollar bet on whatever you're going to talk about with a friend, right? So there's some reward there too, that's been happening offline, but we're bringing it out. We're involving the masses, so people can really monetize their ideas and monetize their network, right? And I think there's 5 things to make a game successful. Natural motivation, right? Desire to play with or against friends, something that an experience that enhances your life, hooks, which Manish, you were talking about, and rewards, which Tariq, you were talking about. Those are the 5 critical components of a gaming experience that make it successful.
John, can we talk some specifics about, you mentioned the 4.3 million active users. So in terms of financials, where are you and where are you headed?
We did about financials as far as revenue last month. We did around 2.6 million.
Pardon? Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So last month we did around 2.6 million, and been growing our, and then we take basically 25%. That's our cut, basically. That's our revenue, our transaction fee. So our goal is to get to 1 million monthly net revenue, and we're on track to doing that early in Q1. and our retention rate and our cohort data is really best in class because of all the things I mentioned. And you know, again, we're enhancing what people are already doing. And you know, after about 6 months of being able to track it perfectly, our retention metrics are around 40%, hovering right there. So that means people are playing at least one game per week to get into that. So that's really good retention as well.
So with you earning, you're earning basically on every game, you're net positive. So what's the reason for raising funds, and why are you raising the money? What will you be using it for?
Mostly to go faster. We know how to get a user and keep a user. So most of the funds will go towards user acquisition and growth. And then also product. There's a never ending list of features and things to do on the product side. It's mind blowing and just really, it's a lot there. So, you know, we also want to staff up a little bit because, you know, we're running, you know, with a pretty small team. So we want to help people out and, you know, do more. So we're not even capturing half of the opportunities that are coming our way on a daily basis. And that's a shame. So we want a little couple more people to help us out and capture those opportunities and run faster and grow.
So what's your, what are you raising right now, or what are you looking for?
We're probably going to raise around 15 million. And so we're on our way with that.
And this is mainly from a Series A kind of round, or?
Yes, exactly. This will be our Series A. We've done.
You're mainly to VCs. Is that where you're targeting the raise from?
Yeah, it's VCs, some angels that are strategic. So yeah, it really depends on the person and what they can do to help, really.
And roughly what valuation are you raising this at?
That depends. So we're gonna let the market speak to that, but we're in talks with a few people to figure that out right now. But
and you're more so far, how much have you raised?
So far we've raised 5.5.
Okay. Another round that some of us were involved in was about 18 months ago. That was.
Yeah, that's right. You were involved with that. Yeah. Ty, you guys came in, I think, on our first or second.
Right. That was early on, right?
Yeah.
Los Angeles. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Go ahead, Tariq and Manish.
John, just one question here. Do you, from your user acquisition point of view, if your retention is very high, your LTV CACs would be very, very amazing metrics. What is the kind of growth rate are you looking at in your revenue by deploying this $10 million if you were to deploy on user acquisition?
Can you say it's so light? Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Okay. What I'm saying is your retention rates are pretty amazing. That's what you mentioned in terms of your data, and your average revenue per user is also pretty high, which means that your LTV CAC ratio would be pretty upwards of 3. Is that right number?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So given that you are very, very positive, and there is a huge retention happening, what is the kind of revenue growth you are going to look at if you were to deploy, let's say, out of 10 million, 7-8 million into your user acquisition? Is that the plan?
That is the plan. Exactly. Yeah. We think we'll be able to get into a revenue growth rate of a monthly in the 20s and 30s, where every month we're growing 20-30% month after month over month.
And is this main all growth going to come from US, or you're going to look at new geographies for your growth?
Oh yeah, no, actually, so US is number 1 right now. India is our second biggest market and fastest growing. But US is massive for us. We are opened in other countries as well, about 16 other countries. So parts of Asia, parts of South America, like Brazil, are getting really big for us and fighting for that third spot.
So do you have to do anything different in the other countries as far as regulations or?
No, it's the same technology, same experience, same platform.
No, I'm talking about regulations and government.
No, right. No, I understand. Yeah. So we don't have to do anything differently. It's the same game, same experience. So we get a legal opinion letter per country, per state, whatever. It depends on how the country, what the country requires. But we don't have to change our tech, which is great.
So, John, what's your total staff, and just break it down into the main groups?
We are 14 people, not all full-time, 11 full-time people, mostly all engineers, and a data scientist and my CTO and co-founder. And then on the business side, it's myself, one user acquisition person, and one designer.
Wow, that's very lean. Did you kind of outsource a lot of the development?
No, it's mostly all engineers in the team, but we basically outsourced. We built it first and then outsourced DevOps, which is in India. But we really we're very focused on how we did this. So we're able to do it pretty lean. But now it's time to grow. Our user acquisition person is doing everything on designing certain things and customer support and social media. And it's like he doesn't, so that's why we're going to be adding some people here and there.
Right, but it's interesting. I'm just trying to get my head around it. The bulk are engineers, so I'm sure the engineers have a pretty heavy creative element to their work. They're not just shoveling code. You're expecting them to come up with creative parts of the model, or is that all something just one or two people are doing?
Yeah, I'm the product person, so I'm driving what to build, from business and from the stats. But we do expect them, and we do have them participate. So like our data scientist even comes up with fantastic ideas because he's looking at the data all day, right? So everyone contributes a little bit here and there.
Right, but just go back to that little example I had. Old black and white photographs, right? Now your guy could say, hey, we don't have a camera that captures the photograph from Joe Blogs that can be put up, right? So that's a change, that's a product evolution. You could say, forget it, we're not doing that. Or would you say, yeah, we'll accommodate whatever the market throws at us, market being the users?
Yeah, oh yeah, we look at, great example and great question. We do look at the market constantly. The market and the data drives the business needs, which drives the product. So yeah, we definitely would try to accommodate all the things that will get the biggest bang for our buck and help the most people out.
Right.
So John, where do you see the future of the company? So suppose you raise this 15 million. Where do you see it? Are you planning to do another raise after that, or what's your exit for the investors?
It really depends. I'm pretty heads down and just building the company and growing it and creating a future and creating opportunity. Once we have all that opportunity, that the company is bigger, there's going to be opportunity and options for us to figure out what makes sense. Whether we run this on our own and it's just, creating a great dividends and great return, or, one of our partners, might be interested in eating us up too. Right. So we'll see what the future holds. What I've done in my other companies is I just go real heads down and building this out, creating great relationships, and then see what happens.
So with respect to your other ventures that you've built, where would you rate this or count this?
Oh, this is by far my passion and the most fun. I think I'm doing this one the right way, much better than the others. The two of them were successfully exited as well, but I've never been involved with a company that has so much wind behind it, and this, and steam and momentum, and everybody wants to help out. Everybody is so excited about this. Everybody wants to see this win. So it's coming no matter what. So I'm really grateful for that momentum and that energy.
We have just a few more minutes. I'll give Manish and Tariq a couple of minutes to ask any more questions of John before we wind up today's session.
John, just one, if you could outline one really risk which you see. Everything looks great, but what could go wrong in your opinion if there was one risk which you were to kind of share with all of us?
Yeah, so the biggest risk is if people, get tired of monetizing their ideas, or they get tired of, creating content, or they don't want to ask, and they don't want to play a game where they're providing their predictions and opinions, right? I think we've made this foolproof though, and bulletproof, because that's almost impossible, because that would go against our human nature. If this was like a HQ trivia, remember them? A trivia game? Well, that's work, right? So this is different. People just do this all day long. You're doing it right now on the call with me about this, right? We can't help it. So people would have to just get completely tired of doing that. But the problem with that is, us humans, we have this romantic relationship with ourselves and our ego, right? We can't get away from that. So we've really put two things together, this naturally occurring phenomenon that happens all the time, when we smash together limbic resonance with that to create this perfectly designed loop, right? So I think that we're pretty risk-free from my perspective.
John, maybe you said this earlier on. I know you did earlier startups, but what did you study at school? What was your passion, if you had a passion in those formative years?
Yeah, school was business management. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. My first company was, so the day after I graduated university in the East Coast, I flew to California the day after, that morning after, and I just felt like home with one bag, one-way ticket. And it was great out here in San Francisco. And I jumped into a sales position. And I'm so grateful I did, because that helps you learn how to communicate and understand people and give people what they need and what they want, right? And help, guide them to what they want, right? And then from there, that's when I started other companies, and they've been all over. So my passion has really been starting companies and bringing it from 0 to 10. And it doesn't matter what industry it's in. It's been all over the industries, from consumer to clothing and apparel to hardcore B2B SaaS technology companies to now gaming, right? So I look at more starting companies like, what am I trying to solve? And then what's the solution hat I can apply to it? And so if this was, a SaaS solution, I would have been doing that and not gaming, right? So, but this is actually gaming instead. So that's the solution. So that's how I kind of look at it, my passions.
So on your team or through your investors or advisors, do you have any heavy duty types like, cognitive psychologists, or people, the intersection of data science and artificial intelligence? Like, you don't have all that shit, right? So you got to bring that shit in from somewhere. You got to have some real brain power, because otherwise the risk that you mentioned to Manish, that people get bored. So either you're really putting that in at the highest, most level brain power, or forget it, you'll be done in 18 months. So I guess what's your risk mitigation to bring those kinds of people in?
Yeah, there's a lot there. So one thing is none of us have a gaming background on the core team, not one of us. Again, that because we're looking at trying to solve a problem and we figured out whatever the solution is, right? Oh, it's a game. And to address your question more directly is, yeah, we have people that are gaming gods pretty much, and are people that are just really understand human behavior and psychology. So we bring in people like that as far as investors and advisors. We have those people, but also they're a great sounding board. We call them the Illuminati for our product and a design, and you know, because that all encompasses all human behavior and all that. But also very importantly, is that we have a stack of books right behind you like that, but about tenfold about the brain and humans. I'm a huge fan of human behavior. So it's always about keeping up with it and learning and just reading and understanding it. So all we do as a core team, myself and my co-founder Vish Kumar, my CTO, we're just constantly learning about human behavior and applying what makes sense to us. But even our designer has a human behavior kind of psychology background. I think that's important. So it all kind of works together.
Unfortunately, we're out of time
But
today.
one thing that I learned from my roadblocks, one of my investors he said, build it and get out of the way. Get out of your way. If you have a platform play like Roblox and like myself, right? Let the users drive all that. They'll come out with what's important to them. You follow and support and enhance, right? So the great thing about this is we've got the core out. Now we're getting out of our own way now.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Manish and Tariq. I know we've hit up on our time block today. So as a follow-up, what we'll do is we'll reach out to other investment groups within TIE. We have many angel funds, angel groups within TIE itself. There's a TIE Angel India fund. There's a TIE Angel, of course, US side. And many of the chapters have angel funds as well, and individuals. So we'll reach out to them, see what level of interest they have, and we might come back to you again, John, to address specifically some questions that they may have. But this has been a great start for us as far as this special interest group goes, and we'll continue on from here. So if anybody has any questions or comments, please reach out to your Thai local chapter, reach out to Thai Global, and we'll make sure we get those questions answered. So with that, we're at our time. Thank you once again to everyone. Thank you, Mohini, and for setting this up. Appreciate it. Have a great day.